take coursework in educational leadership anyway.
Yeah. That'd be fine. Yeah.
I'm ready to go crazy.
Okay.
So, there. I haven't been able to find Tony. But
it's just
he's
here.
just been out. So every morning, Erin is saying the auditorium is unlocked. Kayla now is FaceTiming me every night to show me it's locked. It's unlocked. Erin's not here yet, but I just
Who's
don't
on-
know.
who's on what?
I don't know.
So
This
it's a-
There is a ghost in there.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, I can tell you stories. And I
Okay.
swear I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
To the point where one of my coworkers, a football player, will not go in there by himself.
Like that night when she toured with me, we're in there in the dark and there was weird noises and I'm like, we're out of here. I couldn't even explain where they were coming from. Just saying, I was like,
Amber
I
got.
keep saying, can we have Glenn come in?
Who's Glenn?
Glenn is
Yeah, this-
someone,
Oh, this is Ghost.
he literally goes to like Ireland, Scotland.
He's a ghost
Brit-
hunter.
Yes. And
I don't-
I've gone with him a few times and it's been fun, but I just wanted to let you know, she's
I-
now FaceTiming me and
Yeah, yeah.
showing me everything's shut off, light is off,
Okay.
so. I don't know.
there's no camera by that door.
There's a camera in that hallway. You'd see it
See
going.
people
You'd see if someone was going to unlock it.
Yeah. She thinks she's going crazy, but now she's FaceTiming me every night to show me it's locked and the lights are off, and I just went to check and it's unlocked and lights are on.
Weird.
So,
What?
Locker room?
Yeah.
Kayla thinks she's going nuts, right along
Somebody
with,
keeps unlocking the auditorium doors at night.
to the point where Kayla's like
Oh, last night?
shutting off.
Did it happen last night?
She,
Well,
yeah,
no,
she
no,
shut
no.
off the light, she's FaceTiming me now, cause.
Dave saying what it was in. And the only reason I know this is because my email popped up
You caught
that there
it?
was somebody trying to use a bad card,
Yep.
and I watched Dave Sanguinetti come in. So he's not relocking it?
No, and Kayla's locking it and shutting the lights off, and she's explaining that to Tony and to Erin, like, I'm locking it, and now she's FaceTiming me and showing me physically, she's shutting the light off and locking the door. And I wanted to check this morning, and the lights are on and the door's unlocked.
Weird.
Well, no, I think.
Which?
I think Amy may have found our culprit.
At least last night could have been Dave Sanguinetti.
Why does he find him?
He helps out with the theater
Oh.
group.
He's here all day Saturday too, and that was my other question. Do we have to be here to babysit?
No,
Okay.
if he's, no,
Except for the way he
Okay,
moves
I'm just
on
covering
and
Does
the
he have
doors
kids
come
here?
on.
No, it's just his son.
that's fine.
Okay. As far as I know, he does not have kids here. I can try to reach out to him and verify it's just him and his son. But,
I'll emailing him right now.
oh, so, thank you.
Thank you.
How often
Sorry.
has this happened?
Quite often, to the point where like,
Aaron's starting to email every day.
Andrew and Ziamara cleaned for me on Monday night, cause Kayla was off. So I'm like, hey, friendly reminder, and Andrew and Z are like, no, we locked it. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, but just double check to cover yourselves. And then Kayla FaceTimed me last night to show me she shut the light off and locked it. She's like, I'm not crazy, look, I'm pulling on all the doors. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like, do not FaceTime me. But just saying, she's like, I am, promise. So, and then I just checked and it's open and the lights are on.
Well, the good news is you guys are doing a great job.
But it's not helping, but,
Well, but then we're going to tackle the other piece. But you guys are doing great.
so, all right, well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And
Yep.
Free keys for your trouble.
I
Did you hear
had
they
to step out
volunteered?
at 9:19 to help some
Thank you.
kids
Yeah.
clean out Bob and Chris's room. I'm just gonna give them the materials and Bob? Yeah, the country bag guy.
Combat Bob.
What?
Combat Bob is
That
that
was
dummy
his office, I mean,
that you can punch. You know,
Oh.
She calls him Combat Bob.
Got it.
Oh, dude's going to show up in camo.
Why are we cleaning him?
Cause we wrote on with permanent marker.
So just so you know, before we remember, we're being filmed. It's running. Right, so over here. Just so everybody's aware, it's for my class. Right, I won't show.
This is not my good side, class.
So Kat, why don't you come over to the other side of the table?
I am good on all sides.
All right, just so you know, I didn't want anybody.
Okay.
So, yeah, delete this. There is so the check-in we're gonna start with here, share an interaction with a student that's made you smile or laugh this week. Oh boy. Who wants to go first? Don't hold jump at once.
Me. I have a student who I met on one of the first days of school. The first time I ever tried to give direction about stop this. When I asked for his name, he gave me every Will Ferrell character from a movie that he remembered. I was trying to not laugh because it was hilarious. And then I caught him popping balloons and scaring people because it sounded like a bang the other day. And he was really grumpy when I made him. Called him by name and to come in. How do you know my name? What's your name? What do you do here? How do you know my name?
Wow.
She made yourself really famous with me, buddy. Let's do it for a different reason now. And he actually laughed along with me about one of the time when you did all the Will Ferrell characters. It was hilarious.
Who was it?
Landon. Guru.
Oh,
Guru.
wow. Churro. That's awesome. I'm impressed that he knows Will Ferrell.
Me
Will
too.
Ferrell characters.
Tyler Marshall knew John Travolta, because that's the name he gave me when we got
Which way are we going?
That's funny.
This way?
Sure.
This might be within a week, maybe not this week. The day that the kid stood in the auditorium, maybe his
Thanks, dude.
That
famous
was
speech.
that made you smile?
Because I was chatting, well,
Because he witnessed JB.
it ended up being absolutely hilarious.
Watching JB's
Just,
tears?
no, just very quickly. I walk in here, JB's kind of going, yeah, back to you, pal. I get up the phone. Not really. But we go in and talk to the kid. This is not actually the person, but go in and talk to the kid. It's like, who's your dad? Well, what do they do? Who's your mom? What do they do? Oh, my mom's a speechwriter for the governor. It's like, oh my God, JB, oh my God. But so that same day though, saw with Ethan Marshall out here in the atrium. He was just being incredibly sweet, really thoughtful, and he was like giving me, he was saying, I feel like I've been doing really well this year, Tony. I was like, yeah, you've been great. He's like, I really been trying really hard. Like, my friends don't know this, people don't know this, but I'm actually pretty smart. And I was like, yeah, you are really smart. He's like, look at this. I have all these 3s and 4s. And he's like, I'm even thinking about maybe applying to college. That's awesome. And then he was like, you guys don't know this. You guys made a really big impact on my life. And I was like,
What?
Ethan, that's really sweet. Thank you. He's like, yeah, people don't thank you guys enough. And I was like, thank you. We don't always hear that. Sometimes we have really rough days and it's good days to hear that. Like JB, I think is having a really rough day today. And later I see JB coming in and Ethan just running up to him and give him a hug and
He hugged me. I'm like,
What's happening
But
right now?
she was being incredibly sentimental and very sweet. It was very nice.
It was really sweet.
It was a good day to have it.
Yeah, I was like, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It's just like talking to me while he's holding me, and like you're almost whispering in my ear. I'm like,
So funny.
He is one kid that I met at the start of the year, and he says hi to me every time I see him since that one brief interaction. I don't know. I've actually had a lot of funny moments this week. I guess I'll go with Abby again. Because I keep going back to you hated me for 2 weeks, right? You ignored me.
You were dead to her.
I was dead to her. But she comes in, I don't know if it was Tuesday. I had my light off, I didn't even turn it on yet. And she came in to ask me my opinion on how her makeup looked. I'm like, do I look like someone you should be asking this about? But I'm like,
You should go
right.
see Kat.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna get into this. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm wearing way more makeup than I usually do. I'm like, well, turn on the light so I can see. I was like, oh, it looks so natural. You look great. And she's like, okay, thanks. And then just walked out. That's all she needed in that moment. Like, why are you reaching out to me about makeup?
I'm so jealous. It's
It's very it's very
This morning I'm like,
it's because I'm
Like your
convenient.
day abs.
So I need to remember, go check with Kat. But then she's gonna be late for class, and then she may not go.
Yeah.
So who knows? And then I have to tell this one. So I'm going to. I was in loft with Ryan and just trying to process with him what's going on for him. And he was, I've been kicked out of John's class 3 times this week. I'm like, tell me about that. What was happening? He goes, well, the first one, I was the first one in the class, and I walked in and he said, good morning, Ryan. And I said, okay. And he goes, and I looked down and I said, good morning, John Doobie Doobie Doo. And so I'm trying not to laugh, and John immediately sent him out for saying that. But, yeah, I was like, that's pretty creative. Like, I never thought of Scooby-Doo when I...
To add on to that, I brought Ryan back to the classroom and was like,
For that one?
Hey, for that one. And John, who is also as with Sam Beck, who
Yes,
I get,
yes,
was like,
him and I have had
you
a
don't
few
have
talks."
you don't have this relationship with me, but he told Ryan, he goes, you don't just walk into my classroom and say John Doobie Doobie Doo. Like, do you hear this, John Doobie? It's like me turning to Tony and say, hey Tony the Tiger, they're great, Frosted Flakes. I was like, fuck dude. It was like really aggressive. But legitimately though, people call me Tony the Tiger for like a long time, and I was pretty cool with it, but I really weren't doing that. But it was really intense. I thought.
That is funny. I'm so
But
glad
that
you
being
added
said,
to that
though,
story.
I'm not
Did
gonna,
you
those
see
kids
that
are
coming?
choosing to use that to be jerks right now. Some of them
Since
tell
that
kids.
happened.
So like Ira came by, Brendan Gulledge, Brandon
Yeah.
were like, hey John Doobie Doobie Doo. And I was like, I stopped them. I was like, dude, why are you guys saying, oh, Ryan told us to say it to him.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are being jerks right now because he does not
Yeah.
like that. Please don't
Well,
do that.
like when Ryan mentioned it, it was great because it was like I could compose myself and not laugh and just be like, why do you think he reacted that way? And like he was like processing through that with me. Obviously letting him know that's like not how we interact with.
I didn't understand how they got that though until I went home and talked to Sarah, my wife,
Oh, you didn't
about
you
it because I was like, yeah, they're calling John's, Scooby Dooby Doo, and I was like, I don't get it. It's just whatever. And Sarah goes, so his last name's Doobie. It's like, oh, I get it now. Oh, it took me like almost 24 hours.
I feel like I have daily interactions with Dylan that make me laugh.
Oh, God.
It is little, this is the adult version, but his little like thing that he, oh my god, like I just want to hang over my rearview mirror. It's so sweet. And he's just, and watching the kids.
Was
in
that an
his-
Austin Powers reference?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that watching the kids wrap around him in classrooms is like, I wish for all of our students that come with struggles that they would all do that to all of them. And it's been making me think about like, why does a kid like Dylan get wrapped around, but a kid like Jackson doesn't get wrapped around? And like, anyways, that's not what makes me smile. But I actually just met with a student, and it's like a kid that I'm like, I feel like I gotta keep him closer. And he was a little like, why am I in here type of thing, and I just kind of like kept going with him, and then I said something about like, what do I need to know? Tell me something I need to know about you. And he's like, I don't like people. I'm like, we are meant for each other. I like the world is too people-y. And he laughed about that, and I said, like I'm one of those people, like I don't have a ton of friends, but I have some really like good friends. And he's like, is that weird? I said, no, it's not. Like we all, and he says, I always feel weird because I just have like a few close people and not like a big group of people. I'm like, it's not weird. And then he just started opening up. Like he was sharing all kinds of things about his family and Tyler Wright.
Oh.
Maybe a little bit more work on.
Yeah.
He says his mom was killed. I don't know what killed means.
She has, if you look it up, she has many arrests for DUIs with him in the car and drug possession, and I was under the impression, I thought she had died, she died of heart attack, I'm pretty sure.
This
But I
story
think
is she was killed.
I read it from what I looked up, because before I spoke with him the first time, I just looked up and I saw mother deceased. And I thought I read that it said, at least her obituary maybe said like heart failure, heart disease, something like that, but she had a lot of substance use, it looks like. And, yeah.
But I just talked to the grandmother, and the family lore is that she, so it would have been her mother-in-law. Linda is Tyler's grandmother, who was the caregiver,
Mhm.
and she said the same words. She was killed.
Interesting.
Makes a lot of sense now why we're getting reactions like that from him.
Yeah, and he and I talked a little bit about how hard it is to trust adults, and adults letting me down. I mean, it was that's why I was late. It was a really great but intense conversation that he actually sat in with me. So that was cool.
Good to end this on a light note. Share your Archer story.
Oh, which one? I have so
Well,
many.
you
about
got
him.
mine, and then one of your
Oh,
sisters.
yeah. So he and I are working on social cues and doing things socially correct. And he's been doing really good. It's been hard because he doesn't have grades this year, so he's doing a lot on his own. But he and I are interacting around this Dungeons and Dragons group, and so I had printed off a poster for him to approve because this is his thing. And Kat was in my office and he kept walking by my one-way window and you could tell he so wanted me to pay attention to him, and I just kept paying attention to Kat, and I was he did knock on the window, he did it, I'm just Kat and I was just he just kept walking by and he would just stand there and hope to catch my eye, and I didn't let him, and so then he would come back and but he never knocked, he never he was so appropriate, and which was great because and last week
Meanwhile, you're telling Tat that he's doing this.
yeah, and last
She's
week
good at it was
last week he went running into my room when I had an adult in the room, and he was would this be a good time to talk? And I was yes. So we're making such great headway with it this year.
In Flux yesterday, he was talking to a group of 3 other students about how roosters impregnate chickens.
Is there a reason why you have sunscreen?
Yes, so the boys did some research on how you take permanent marker off of a rubber surface, and these were 2 things, so I brought them in for them to clean. So I'm gonna run these down to them, and then I'll be back.
The other thing is, Jenny has some of those magic erasers.
We've tried that.
Oh, that's damn.
We even got this really strong alcohol from shop.
The other lure is that if you take a whiteboard marker,
We tried, well, no, we did not try that on the rubber.
kind of a whiteboard marker over
Over
it.
the Sharpie.
Yeah.
That works on a dry erase board.
You know?
We
I
can
mean,
try
yes.
it with rubber. I'll let them know.
All right, JB has to do a thing.
I gotta do a thing.
We're doing the thing with JB now.
That's right. So we're running a tutor protocol.
You didn't share something that made you
Oh, I can share something that made me smile. I would think, so our 3 girls from middle school that had been challenging.
There's only 3 in middle school that are challenging?
Well, there was 3
But
really
last year,
that were extremely challenging. Now we're freshmen. They have been going to class. They have not, I haven't been in much trouble. But what's interesting is that the friendships have kind of shifted a little bit, and there was some drama between 2 of them, but they came to an agreement last night that they weren't gonna hang out and be friends, but they were gonna stop the drama between the 2 of them.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're for 3 girls who were not in class at all last year, really, at all, were always in trouble. They're really making a concerted effort to buy into the school thing. Yeah, it made me smile. I'm it's a lot, and
How much work went into that?
Amy
maybe
worked,
some
Amy
growth.
worked 2 years with the families.
the best way to describe them is soul sucking.
Yeah.
It was really hard, and then
It was personal.
it was ugly all the way around. And then Jess and I got involved in it, trying to help, and it made things even worse, I think, in some ways. Some ways it was better. And then this year, we ended the year with a conversation with the families about fresh start. And one of them has done great and hasn't had any issues. The other 2 were in classes with each other, and there were still some antics, and there was a falling out there, but they've all, I think, found their way. Different friends.
How many girls and I know?
Emma Brown and Violet Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Nellie
Mark.
Neimark.
I feel like I wouldn't stay out because I don't know her.
That was one that stays out of it. It's
Okay.
done really well. Does it really well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, makes me smile just to think that slowly but surely they're just growing up and
Sure.
yeah. All right,
I hope for.
team protocol. So we're
What's the name of that mother?
which mother?
Right.
Oh, I have her obituary right here, and it says heart condition. Oh, I can show you guys. Her name is Anne Marie Sharp.
Anne Marie what?
Anne Marie Sharp, ANNEMARIE.
I'm not sure.
SHARP.
T.
P-E or P?
P.
Sorry.
Thank you for the Will Ferrell as
Yeah,
well.
there you go. All right, for a third time, we're gonna use the same protocol to look at the comprehensive behavioral process intervention sheet. We did some work, 2 weeks ago
Mm-hmm.
with Amy, and I had gone ahead and I tried to make it into a one-pager, which I could not do, but I was able to get it to a front-back one page. Thank you for the the music.
Musical
So
interlude.
we've used the 2-net protocol, so we understand how it goes, but if we wanna just take a look, in a minute here, we'll look at what I've done. I'll give you maybe 10 minutes to look it over and to think, is this enough of a checklist? Remember, I think the purpose is just something to help us process with kids. The same, almost a way to calibrate and make sure that we're hitting the things that we should. And then from there, we'll do the feedback, cool and warm, and I'll take notes. We'll go from there. Sound good? All right.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Because I missed last week. So
Yeah.
this is a more synthesized version, checklist.
Yes.
That is
Nope.
tied to the comprehensive piece?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
It's more like a day-to-day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so I'll put 9:30, we'll come back. We might keep that sooner.
Sunblocked it.
Get it up.
Took it off the stomach right away.
Unblock you? Wow.
That's it, you gotta let it sit for a while. Tristan, in the classroom now?
He should be in class. Just so we know, we're doing in about 5 minutes to look over the checklist. It's just a synthesized version of the comprehensive issues that we look for using the same protocol.
Sounds fine.
The checklist.
said, my bad, I got caught up. I'll go right now.
All right.
And then he said, I said, okay. And he said, can you not follow me? I was like, I'll let you go back if you go straight back. He goes, what if it takes 10 hours? I goes, I'm just kidding. So all that was polite.
Sorry.
Hey, Amber, Nicole, you on the radio? Corey, did you say we're good? No, not yet. I'm gonna check the front office and now about
So are we missing somebody?
Yeah, PW that you had with you this morning.
He's complaining about his back and not being able to breathe well. Have you checked with the nurse? Good looking.
That's way too soon.
If we're ready, we can go.
I need one more
Yeah,
second
yeah,
or
yeah.
something else.
Anytime.
Corey, this is Sue. Are we good? Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I'm good.
There you go. Right, so, give me an opportunity for clarifying questions.
What would be the way that you think that this would be used on like a daily basis?
More of a guide to make sure that we are keeping in mind the different interventions and options and the way we move through it. So like, when we talk to students, we have a consistent approach for that flow of what we work with kids. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what your thoughts are about where my role fits into this.
So, my personal opinion on your role is never from the punitive piece, and it's always on the repair side, so that you would be an intervention that would use. The way I typically have been using it this year is anytime there's been harm done, and I would have you work with those students to repair that piece. It'd be nice to also have a proactive approach with you as well, that we can start working on what that looks like.
I have a clarifying question. On the first page, under classroom responses, the last one, it says report to teaching assistant, was that just supposed to be TA?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, it's pretty clear.
Sweet. All right, warm feedback, 5 minutes.
I can start.
Okay.
I think that it is a quick and easy way to kind of checklist and align processes, that word, 7 through 12.
Okay.
And you know, what's that word that I never remember? Where we like calibrate, you know, we'll just like, yeah, that it helps us make sure that regardless of who it is, we're putting our own spin on things, but we're doing it pretty much the same. So kid and parents could just always kind of know how we will respond.
One thing that I am liking about this checklist is that calibration will be made a little easier because it's clear. It's clear that level 1, level 2, level 3, how they would differ by severity. It's aligned with some of the evidence-based practices in PBIS, whether you like PBIS or not. And it's laid out with a nice flow of examples of behavior. What are the things that we could be doing proactively in advance? What the adult responses might be, and what the follow-up or documentation might be. It's comprehensive, even summarized.
I like that with the example, sometimes we start trying to list off every single possible behavior, and you're trying to look to see where that fits into. I think with keeping it a little more short and sweet, you can kind of get a feel for it yourself as the teacher. I also like that, I don't know if maybe this is super intentional, but making sure that the first actions are trying to make sure you're being proactive before going to classroom responsive, and always make sure there's documentation. Finding that there's a lot of reminders needed for documentation, teachers. So I like that that's in there, and a good reminder is a part of it.
Anything else?
I think I echo everything everybody else has said. I can see this, like, if I picture myself in the classroom, like, it's a great thing to just have as like reminders of what I
Yep.
need to be doing.
Okay. Anything else? So cool feedback.
And noticing that the structure of level 1, example of behaviors, proactive supports, classroom responses, documentation, really was laid out well, but that same format isn't followed for level 2 and level 3. It's missing what might the adult response be, even in that moment, for level 2 and level 3. In level 2 and 3, the proactive supports really seem like responses rather than what could you be doing proactively. And like under administrative responses
Yep.
is both a positive and like it shows I think it clearly identifies level 1 teachers respond,
Yep.
and level 2 and level 3 administration
Yep.
responds. But you're not saying what one of the responses might be a referral to the RISE.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
you just talked about it.
Yep.
I hear what you're saying, Kat, because and then the assumption that I made was that like level 2, you're still doing those level 1 proactive things, right? But like it's not
It doesn't
necessarily
say
as
it.
clear on here, you know.
Okay.
Reminder: use your proactive toolbox,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have my feedback. Full feedback would be, and I put a link on the minor behavior you can see where my link is,
Okay.
that it's very similar to that document that we already had, that we incorporated into the comprehensive one, that had like the tables.
Yeah.
And so kind of like wondering, like what the difference is, like, if we're looking for something short, maybe we already have it, we just
Yeah.
had added it to. And then also, one of the reasons why I think where we kind of went to this crazy 19-page long comprehensive thing was that it also tackled those like 4 buckets
Yeah.
of discipline, educate, restore, and counseling, and that those 4 buckets are not represented on this quick header. And if it's important if it truly is important, and I'm making a value judgment
Yeah.
there, and maybe it's not, that we are really committing to everything has 4 responses to it, that's not represented here.
So just help my understanding this, is this something, how would this be used? Cause in my head I saw like, oh, this might go out to teachers as like a quick and dirty guide, versus like the bigger piece being more what's happening on our end behind the scenes, of making sure that we have like a process in place or an extensive like, just plan or procedure. Is that accurate, or is that not how this is?
I think you're asking us to follow a training protocol though, where we're supposed to be giving you
Oh.
cool feedback.
You are.
And
That
then
would be the last
the
one where
next
we give
page.
suggestions.
Yes, and JB's just listening right now.
JB's being
Cool.
so good about being inclusive, but not really.
I wonder about those 3 categories. I wonder if there's a way even, because in my head, because I'm seeing this as like a teacher tool,
Yeah.
having, I don't even know how you do this just yet, but having like a 1-sentence question to yourself as to where maybe behaviors are falling. So can this be handled in the classroom by a teacher? Does a
Yes, no.
exactly, there's level 1. Level 2, like does a teacher need the support of dean or administrator and then to be able to get the student to return back to the class, or is the student unsafe or is it inappropriate for them to remain in the classroom environment for maybe a level 3, like the kids smoking weed can't be in
Tony
it, right?
also continues to move to the last question of the protocol.
Is that the last?
Suggestions
No.
for
So that's a-
improvement.
That's a cool feedback that you should, whatever. I want, redacted.
Oh, we will enjoy this.
I'm gonna start singing copyrighted tunes.
I'm thinking at this point, we wanna go to the final part of
Wait,
this.
we haven't,
Oh.
not everybody's had a chance. Did you
Excuse
offer
me.
cool feedback yet?
Oh, no, I don't think I did.
She was scared out of it by the way I was doing it.
Just like, it's a great idea, I don't dare speak. Pressure! I think it would be helpful to add those proactive supports to the other levels. Just so we're helping to like regulate kids to
Yep.
be able to move forward. That's it.
Okay, I was giving you think time.
That's all I got.
That's fine. So,
I feel like Tony has some good suggestions. For
I
the
know.
next step.
He
Are we ready
does.
for suggestions?
you were ready for
Looks good
suggestions?
to me.
One thing they might consider trying or doing, what if they, I wonder, like, suggestions would be wonderful.
The suggestions are a 1-sentence question a teacher might ask themselves that might help them understand what kind of behavior they're dealing with.
You mean like making like a flow chart or something? If this, then.
Yeah, and sometimes, the only reason why I'm saying this is sometimes I feel like people are quick to take level 1 behaviors and treat them like level 2s, and they should be handled in the classroom and move on. I almost don't want to be rude in saying it, but in asking that question, is a well-trained teacher able to manage this behavior in the classroom? Does a well-trained teacher need the support of an additional person to redirect and get that kid back on track and get them back in the classroom? Is this student unsafe or inappropriate to remain in the classroom environment?
I love that thinking, because it seems like once you get called, it escalates the situation.
Yeah,
And that's not good for the kid or the class.
yeah.
I don't know if I
You
can
can be managed
tell.
before you get called, right?
Which that makes me wonder about,
I don't know if I captured that. There's a well-trained teacher.
able to manage these behaviors in the classroom. Would a well-trained teacher need the support of an additional administrator, dean, rise, to manage behaviors and get the student back on task and redirected to be able to remain in the classroom? Is the student unsafe or inappropriate to remain in the classroom environment?
And wondering, along those lines, if we are thinking about those 6 layers or levels of instruction, could we talk about, for the teacher's toolbox, what are the level 1 and level 2 responses in the classroom?
Yeah,
Before we move into you as the intervention, right?
does I see the documentation, and maybe this is not appropriate for this. I wonder about, identifying if teacher needs support and training in how to handle situations, or if we're identifying whole group things that as a school we are actively trying to focus on and target as a skill set students learn. Maybe that's not for this document, but
I think it's an important wonder for our work together, because later on in our conversation today, we're gonna look at student data. And I for sure have questions about adult responses and skill sets, in addition to what are the lagging skills of those students, right? And I think we need to hold on to that and come back to that. I've been wondering about something I heard you say, Amy, about those 4 pieces:
What were they? It was
educate,
Discipline,
restore,
educate, counsel, restore.
and I'm wondering,
Not order.
under level 1, where it talks about proactive supports, classroom responses, and documentation. I'm wondering if we could start to, if JB might wanna consider, rewording this, so that it has those 4 pieces in each one of the levels. And it maybe acknowledges, if you're at level 2, it includes what's in level 1, and, right? And then say the words that fit, like, this is the adult response. Educate. This is the administrative response. Restore. Like making connections back to that document. I wonder if that might be helpful. And how close is it already to what we already have? Like, is there room for, we have this great checklist that started, a document we've already started to get collectively, and finding some opportunities to bring the two together.
Yeah, like this is like your quick reference in the moment, and then you need to do like a deeper dive.
yes.
How do you like locate
Mhm.
those pieces?
Don't do
on the-
links.
No.
Whatever you do,
Don't have them full,
don't
cause
do
then
a
my,
link.
I'm like, wait, what about this one, what about this one, then I'm not gonna do what I need to do. I'm wondering if, where it says offer longer breaks in alternative locations, and it may just be because I'm a newbie, like, what are those alternative locations? I think that's like a great time of like a first step of like, Sarah, can you give this kid a break and reset and.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm not talking.
I have wondered about that
Don't even say
too,
yes, don't even nod
because
your head.
I've been looking at, recommendations from doctors for putting students on 504 plan. And some of them feel like if they were in the middle school, it's clear what is the alternative space, the alternative person to go to if there's a problem, as an accommodation, but we don't have that at the high school.
No. Like there's the Zen Den.
That's just,
Becca, it's Amy.
like, in the budget meeting, She's doing budget meetings, so.
She told me that she would step in when we're meeting, because she really wants us to be able to meet. That's not, this was
Yeah.
not a criticism of her at all, but she said she would try to actually leave this time free so that she could be the first person that lets us have like continuity of this meeting. And sorry, Tony, you're gonna have to go.
What just
See you
happened?
later.
TR
some
left us.
support. Sorry, I interrupted you.
You did?
I don't know.
I think I finished. You
Okay.
maybe interrupted
Trying to
that.
work with
I
her.
have no problem with
Yeah,
that then.
calling mom.
Right, I have some wonders.
I think it's already there, but
Um,
let me get there.
I-
Susie wants something to call.
This feels like that this document you've created, that with some additions and some maybe formatting things, this could actually be a really helpful like infographic or a quick hitter for teachers. That like easy to see, easy to use, put it up next to your desk, put it on your like whatever, like boom.
Yeah.
Like maybe not as deep or wide as we need, but like some of this stuff is really, really good
Mhm.
for teachers to see
Yeah.
and really have it in their faces. And then I was kind of going the direction you were going, Kat, a little bit, was like, how do we help teachers understand responsibility, skills, ability, need for like, pretty much you should be dealing with all level 1 behaviors.
Yeah.
And then I think about PD, you know, do we mine our collective memories about behaviors? Do we mine like the fact that we know what behavior is going on in any schools at any one time? IC reports, and do we print them out on pieces of paper or slips? And do we do paper mingles in the cafeteria to start some of our meetings? Like, here's a scenario. Kat, here's my scenario.
How would you?
How would you do it? How have you handled it? Like, how do we help with some collective wisdom and like help each other? And the answer is not call an administrator or send a kid. Like, that is like, that can't be your answer. But talk about it. How do we
Like a
build?
tabletops.
How do we
I
build
love that.
skill sets there for teachers to respond to level 1 and maybe even level 2 behaviors without disrupting their classrooms and without like call us.
One thing I'm curious about, and if you've thought about this, is under level 1, it says documentation, record, infinite campus for tracking behavior. I'm wondering if under level 2, where it says a repeat, if our first response when if there's a call for help, should, if it falls in, I don't know, I'm not thinking clearly. I think I've been listening to the radio more than I want to, and I hear Tony getting called a lot for things I think that could be handled within the classroom with the right skill basket, right? For the adult in the room. And then the follow-up is the frustration of, I'm having to call Tony every day. I wonder if our first response needs to be, if you're feeling like this is a repeat of a level 1, should you,
Excuse me.
if
Where are you?
this is a repeat of a level 1, how you can document it? Because I'm thinking, I've also heard Tony say that they're not documenting what's
Yeah,
happening,
there's-
they're just calling for help and not addressing it in the classroom.
There are some who are documented, but like when I hear that, like I'll look on IC to see what the
Oh, you do?
situation is, to see if it's like, oh, am I seeing this repeated over time? Like then I can follow up and check in. I think the other thing that will be helpful too, the 3 of us, or at least Tony and I, are gonna start meeting weekly, but anyhow, and they're not always documenting.
You're not always documenting. And then, like, if they do what we're asking, then this group has an additional responsibility, I think, to say, with this many referrals, that's what, then this team will do something with
And
that.
I think we talked about that this summer of like, if there is like the adult that is referring out, like consistently for a certain amount of time, then that's like, we come together to say, okay, like, what is the coaching that needs to happen, or like, what are the other supports to get this adult to
Mhm.
feel confident and comfortable in that space to do the work.
Yes. Yeah. Good. And, sometimes if you wanna change the student behavior, it's really about changing the adult behavior, right? We know this. But there are some behaviors that we really hope to see change with kids. And there are some that will need progressive
Yes.
discipline, right? So, like, I'd love to use this data to say, what are the adults gonna do differently? And to pair it with, how will that change our
100%,
responses
yes.
to students?
Yeah, and or what supports are we putting in place for the student, right? Because it might be that lagging skill,
Mm-hmm.
like how are we going to practice and build that? I think a great example of what's coming up right now is Erin connected with me this morning. Well, they've been talking about a freshman, and the TA had put out an email at the end of the day yesterday, like, let's get everybody together, like,
Yeah.
figure out what we're gonna do to support, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Erin and I connected this morning, well, we connected yesterday about it, and then this morning, and she's right, and like, who's the responsible one to like get this going, to get this moving, because finding like a common time for everybody to meet and plan what this is gonna look like, or what the student needs, so I'm like, I feel like that's my responsibility at this point, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like me building in like a starting plan, being able to email it to the team. I also want like targeted behaviors, like what are the behaviors you wanna see increase for the student?
So you're now talking EST language.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that,
a referral for EST.
so we need to be filling out that form. That's, I think the tricky part too, is like the consistency in that, because it just feels like
But
it's,
if we look at Form A, it would say, what are all the things
and I was
we've
trying to
been
look
doing?
at all those forms, and I was gonna highlight like what are
We
the,
need
what
to-
is
all
the
we've
same
done
on
is just
every
shown him that he
form?
can do whatever he
What
wants.
is different? I just haven't had.
Hence
that.
that's
why,
the lesson.
that's why I was hoping that at some point you
The
could have.
alternative
Yeah,
is-
it is in mine.
Or
Yeah.
structure.
Mine too.
What's the alternative to it?
If he's not ready to learn or be in this environment, he should not be here.
Agreed, and so last year with that approach, sorry to interrupt, last year with that approach, we sent him home. With that.
And
And-
he's also a linchpin for Ryan Chase, for Jacob Wright, for all these other students who are then leaving the classroom and being a part of that environment.
Yep.
And they're being super jerks to Brian Albee, and so,
Understood.
and John Dewey. And so, if they're destroying the learning environment for other students, it's a major issue. He's not demonstrating any safety by following any sense of or sort of direction. He wouldn't come to loft when I requested, he wouldn't return to class when I requested, he refused to stop when I requested. That is incredibly unsafe for a kid who's not managing his health and who isn't following any sort of expectation. It's an absolute concern. In my opinion, if you cannot be ready for the learning environment, you can't be in the learning environment. It's too much on so many people and so many other resources.
So the alternative is we call home and let his mom know that this is where he's at, this is how much time has gone by, and that it may be appropriate for her to come get him. The problem with that, then it reinforces the fact that he gets to go home. We can't put our hands on him, you can't force him to go anywhere. So, and he knows this. And so this is the game we have, which is why I think we need to document the amount of time that he's in refusal mode, so that we have the data to say, this is how long it takes when he decides he's not going to follow a reasonable request. This is how much time he's losing out on learning opportunities. This is not the right environment for their student right at this time, because this is what he's up to, and it's like he will continue to play the game because it's a power struggle for Tristan.
It is.
And I think we need to document how much time he spends in that power struggle spot.
Can I, just as an observer to this,
Yeah.
who is also traumatized by this child, so I
Yeah.
recognize like how he can push these buttons,
Yeah.
and I'm not involved in today's thing. What happens when, so I'm assuming he left a class and wouldn't go back, is that just kind of what just happened?
And it's also been repeatedly in the same class, right? I've already addressed it once.
Yeah.
But from today, isolated.
This is the second time today.
Okay. What happens? Where does he go?
He just walks.
He walks around.
Okay. Is there any point where he can walk himself into being able to go back into that classroom?
He said flat out that he would go back to class if we let him be. And so I laughed. I said, okay, it's just a game then. Then I walked actually went downstairs.
Is there a way to see if there a way to get him to see, to understand, to buy into, if you go to this place and you do this thing, we will leave you alone?
I made that clear.
We'll go back.
I said that from the get-go.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have to take this turn. If you walk back in the classroom, I'm not going to walk down there with you. And when he went down and made the turn away from the classroom was when I was like, great, you now have to come and follow you to make sure that you're being safe and responsible, that you're not going to other classes, you're not trying
Right,
to
so
get other
that's a
students to
level
walk
of
out.
control, right?
Right.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to say, like, is there a way that we can give him a specter of control around, like, great, nobody's gonna watch you, nobody's gonna look at you, nobody's gonna walk you back to class, and we have to know that when you do, you go to this, like, one spot, and if you were in that one spot, everybody knows, like,
So
back off you.
I tried that with him when
Yeah.
he was in coma the other day, and he took advantage of it and was bummed. Because we've had conversations before, I'm like, why are you doing it? He's like, because I just need a 5-minute break. Or I need a break, I need to walk and cool down. I'm like, well, how long do you need? He's like, 5, I'll never need 10. But then he doesn't follow through with what he's saying, so he was mad he was with me. And he said, I need that 5-minute break. And I said, okay, I'm trusting that you're gonna come back in 5 minutes. And he didn't. And then, like, him and I talked about that as like, you haven't built that trust yet. Sarah and I talked to him in pretty much a lot of detail the other day. He is repeatedly saying he wants a fresh start. He doesn't feel like he's always heard, which I think we've heard all this before. He doesn't necessarily even like the kids that are here. I'm like,
He's
but
got a
I
lot
s-
of friends.
but you see him interacting socially.
Yeah.
But
They're not friends.
he hates everything about being here. We kind of got from that, like, the big spaces are hard, like, with a lot of people. They did talk, Sarah did bring up Xena, and I don't know. Melissa
He
was.
brought it
gonna-
up with Melissa.
Yeah,
He brought it up with Melissa?
well, cause Sarah asked, like, what type of place do you need, and he was describing small.
I'm wondering, just in the interest of time and the way that we're spending our time together, is what this team structure is really helpful for us to make sure that when we are engaging in proactive time together, that we don't get derailed by the in the moment. There's some real realities at play for Tristan that should indicate to us we should not invest quite so much time in responding and just follow what we already have in front of us. Tristan's primary area of disability is not emotional disturbance. It's not any of the things that would say this level of planning, which means we respond with traditional UVEI style discipline, exclusionary practices. When he is not here and ready to learn, he is not here. It will turn into, to be honest, a shit show. He's already struggling, I do believe, because he is so far behind. His own actions and his learning disability has made learning not accessible. He has huge gaps in knowledge and skill. And no way to save face other than engage in power struggles with adults. We need to remove those power struggle opportunities.
And I will say, like, if you look at his schedule, the times he has with Melissa in small groups, he's attending to. And so that really backs what you're saying.
And he's only got 2 traditional kind of classes.
And he can't
And
handle
And
it.
those are the 2 that, where it's John's and it's Brian's. Like,
He cannot handle being.
And in John, Sarah's pulling in during that time.
but
I mean, this is all stuff that we know. This is all stuff we know. And
so
we
when
know.
we use student behavior data
Mhm.
to make decisions,
Yep.
we're supposed to do something with that data.
And
And
we've-
this this team needs to make a referral for,
Alternative placement. Like
a
Zenith.
behavior consult. And,
The problem is when you have refusal from the family, what do you do there?
you
Exactly.
don't make a suggestion or a referral for an alternative placement until you can demonstrate that you've tried some things. What we have not yet tried is a behavior referral.
Say more about that. What do you mean by behavior referral?
We have not made a referral for an FBA and an evaluation under emotional disturbance. The family has refused to go down that path. We need to stop giving them another path. Because right now, they're saying his only issue is diabetes and an SLD. We cannot offer services or support an alternative placement for something that is not the primary area of disability. It's not even a disability category in his evaluation because we couldn't do the testing. Now we have data that we can say our team is making a recommendation for a behavior referral so we can figure out what's going on for him. We have this discipline data that's gonna tell us we need to do something different. If the family decides to remove him from service, then they're leaving him at risk. But right now, I think we're also unintentionally enabling the family to keep ignoring the problem. And he's making it harder for this kid.
Yeah.
And I think that there's vicarious trauma that's happening for all the adults who are working with him. It's completely taken over this conversation.
We've been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah,
So it's all, a lot of what you're saying, with the exception of this last piece, which I love, are all things we've tried. I mean, we have gone to the moon and back with things. What we haven't done is an actual behavior thing, which is awesome. And part of the reason I'm San Antonio is we need to collect the data on how long he's in refusal, so that we have that. It's like, this is how long it takes when he gets to that spot. This is how much time out of the classroom that's taking away. This is the redirections. This is how long. This is how often. So that when we make that referral, based on this evidence that in this data that we have, this is why we think we should do something different.
and that behavior data would be just a like beautiful baseline, like gold mine for the Morgans of the world, right? Because then we can say, you know, our goal is less time spent out of class.
I mean, just in the classroom. If you were able to stay in the classroom and
Seeing growth would be great.
and just be a member, not even a productive member, just be a member, it would be a win. Because when he's in there, he's distracting everyone else intentionally because he is uncomfortable because he doesn't understand what's going on.
And I don't want you to think that I'm not hearing you with
Oh, no, I
the
hear you.
program or an alternative placement. But there are steps to follow, and
Yeah.
I'm feeling very protective of the Zenith program.
Yeah.
There is some great work that's happening, and it all starts with the child and the family and the team recognizing there is an area of need
Sure.
that around social emotional behavioral learning that has to be addressed. Because that's their game, man. That's the thing that Sarah and I know are really good at. And if Tristan and his family don't feel like that's something that he even has to engage on, there's nothing happening in Zenith that will be helpful to him.
No, it makes total sense, Kat. I'm not even.
And I think that there are examples of students who are in Zenith being successful right now, that the biggest thing was the dysregulation that a large building can cause. And the amount of energy it takes in your body and your mind to navigate those scenarios. The social things, the academics, everybody in the room is smarter than me. I don't even know what that teacher is saying. I mean, you can reduce some of that, you know, that stress, that chronic stress that's caused by that. Like, your body can settle down a little bit, which gives you a little bit more open. So where do we do we ask, do we hire Morgan to do an FBA? Do I have to do an FBA? Like,
I don't think you should do it. I mean, just because. I don't think you should do it. Strictly because you and I have done so much with him. There's already an adverse, and I think we would just.
The right people to do it would
Trigger.
be an outside agency or if Sarah or I, because we don't have skin in the game.
I've worked with him and had conversations with him, and he's always been super respectful. So I feel like I probably could, but does it make sense though if you're pulling Morgan in, that she's collecting that data of like how long it's taking as part of her
I think it's
evaluation?
great. Until we can get her here, I think we need to keep it.
So
Yeah,
we're,
yeah, yeah.
we're, again, though, we're jumping some loops. I
Yeah.
referenced Morgan as that's a
Yeah.
structure that we know and have in place. Once a need has been identified, we can't pull in an outside agency unless we go through the IEP team and say, we are recognizing that there's something more going on for this student than a simple SLD, and we have to respond to that.
I have a question about the form A, B, and C for a student who's already identified as having a disability or being in an IEP. Do you continue to use that progression of forms to move through it, or once he's on an
Different people-
IEP, basically an IEP team now just kind of takes over that process?
So this team actually would be a great place for us to pull out Form A and get some input from teachers and say, if you look at Form A around reading and writing where we know he already has SLDs in math, then we could say there's already been a referral outside of this team where we've examined what's happening in layers 1 and 2. Because Form A is, what did you do in layers 1 and 2 in order to, and that they didn't respond to, that in order to make a referral for layers 3 and 4 or the EST process.
So, right, just because we're over time, and I just want to end this so I can turn that video off. I will follow up with the more feedback and suggestions to see if I can't bring back that document, because I think it sounds to me like the document that I've created might be better utilized for teachers in the classroom. And maybe that's it, and then try to get those structures consistently through each of the different steps, levels, whatever we're calling it. So I will take a look at that, and I will try to have that ready for our next meeting, just to have it. Okay, and thank you for letting me do my interview, and I agree that we need to think about how we use the time, because that did derail our conversation, but it's an important one because he's probably one of the most highest struggling students we have.
Yeah.
So
And not
turns
even on my
out-
list
Yeah, let me turn this
for
up.
referrals.
And we have to get back to where you both